So I will kick it off then, and say that you can see on the screen, and you've been seeing it for quite a while now, that my session is all about how to create an awesome strategy and upsell more work with minimal effort. Why? Because I'm lazy. That's why. Not just because I'm lazy, but also because I find it's important. And I think it's important for us to not put all of our eggs, so to speak, in one basket, especially with clients. So I'm trying to advance my slides and they don't want to advance for me. Oh, okay. So what we want to do is we want to create awesome slides with minimal effort and not even introduce myself. So hopefully you now know I'm Judith. You can Google me or use the search engine of your choice. I don't read my bullet points mainly because not because I'm lazy, but because you can read the bullet points anytime you want, and you can do them as I'm going through. But hopefully, even though I don't read bullet points, this talk will still be fun. So that's what I'm hoping. Anyway, let's just do this. Let's get on and get rocking and rolling and do it. So, right, what do we need to do? Well, sometimes when we're pitching people, and I mean, we've all been there, right? That client who says, well, I'd like to hire you, but can you prove to me that you know what you're talking about? And we're all like, well, of course we know what we're talking about. We've won a search award or whatever. But they want a taster. And so we have to somehow tee them up and give them a taster of what's going on, what we're doing, what's going to happen. So we need to do that, but we need to do that without giving away the farm, and we need to do it without spending like 3 or 5 days. I don't know about what the audience split is between agency and in-house. I don't know, maybe we can create a poll and see how many people, what percentage of people are in-house versus agency. But I've been in-house and agency, but when I was agency side, I remember we spent weeks on pitches. Now, granted, we were also a design agency, not just a dev agency. So a lot of those weeks were spent on design, and we had some amazing people, but I was always pulled in on meeting after meeting after meeting, and there were yellow stickies, and there was whiteboards, and there were walls of yellow stickies. Have you been there? I'm sure. Oh, wow. You know what? It was so shocking. One of the books fell off my shelf. We've all been there, right? We've all been there. We've all been on those walls of yellow stickies. And really, for what? For what? A week or 2 weeks and we don't win it, or we do win it, and then it's 2 years of difficult clients, difficult, constantly asking questions, and we have to overservice them, and we make no money. So what I'm going to show you how to do is do all that weeks of work in 3.5 or so hours. Yes, that's right. If you use the tools right, you're going to get this, a strategy, in 3.5 or so hours. Now, please do more work when it actually comes to the time of working with the clients. But for now, for the pitch, we're going to do it fast. We're going to do it dirty, but we're going to do it sexy. Now, what does that mean? We need to be thinking about these questions as we're putting things together. So what are we doing? What is the thing that we've been called into the company to do now? Sometimes we have to reframe the question for the client. Sometimes they've asked us to do stuff and we're like, no, that's not what you want. Sorry. I know that's what you've asked for, but that's not what you want. So we do something called reframing. I'm sure we've also all been there, because sometimes clients don't quite understand what it is they want. So what we do is we actually reflect back to them what they've asked for, but we use different words to make sure that we've understood it and they actually accept that this is what they were asking for, not something completely different, which is actually what they wanted, but they didn't say that. That happens all the time. Yeah, I know we said we wanted X, but actually, now that you've given us X, we realize we want Q. The number of times we've had that in agencies, or even just me as a consultant, where somebody has said, you know, now that you've reflected that back to me, I realize that's not quite what I wanted. What I want is something like this. And it's those conversations that help us do point number one. So, you know, what is it that we actually want to do? Do we have the right stuff for it? Now, number two is really interesting because it forces us to think about where are the right places for us to make money off of this client? Like, of all the stuff we could do, what are we going to do? So we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the client and we're not just trying to make money ourselves, and we're not just doing things by rote. So we're not just saying, right, well, we know that in order to make money off this client, we need to do X, Y, and Z. So we're going to sell in X, Y, Z, plus we're going to add an ABC because Judith said always be upselling. That's not quite the right way to do it. We want to think about so we've said we want to do all these things. Now, given that we want to do all these things, what is it that we actually should be doing? Because a client will trust you more if you start saying things like, I know you asked for link building, but you see that technical stuff that's all really bad? We need to fix that first. And what we would like to do is actually not sell you link building right now, maybe in a year, maybe in 6 months, but not right now, because we would much prefer to get the content right and the technical audits elements that we've seen right, so that we can link build to something that's strong and not to something that where we may need to change the URLs because your entire platform is not the best. I was going to use a naughty word there. So we want to be thinking about all the time, what can we do for the client that will make them the most money and make them look good, because it's about them, not us. And if you're in-house, and so you're not agency side, I would like you to think about this from the point of view of pitching for more budget. Because any of us who have been in-house, I've been in-house, as I mentioned, know that we're always stretched. We're always being asked by the boss to do more and more and more. Doesn't matter if you're a team of 1 or 10, there's always more. There's always more. It never ends. One of the clients that I worked with up until recently, I helped them build out a team internally to take over from me. I was doing 2 days a week. They needed 5 people 5 days a week. And that's what they ended up with. And I'm not even joking or exaggerating. There was a manager hired and then 4 more people. 2 very junior people and 2 more senior people, and below the manager level. It sometimes needs that. And bosses don't always realize that until they actually sit down and look at the work that needs to get done. So from an in-house perspective, use this to argue for more budget. Use this. What are the broad aspirations of the business that you're working for? What will make your manager look good to the CEO? Or what will make your manager look good to the CMO? What will make you look good to the CMO? You know, what is it that you need to do? And then what is it that you need to undertake to get there? And also, always really good for winning more budget, how are you going to beat the competition? Because we know that for 99% of businesses, it's a tough, competitive world out there. It's not easy. There's so many other things in the SERPs that we have to beat. That's right. We need to beat the competition, and this is how we're going to do it. One of the things as an agency and as an in-house that you should be doing is double checking that your bosses or your client know actually who the competition is. I had a client once where they said, okay, these people, they're our competition. And I went in and I said, actually, no, they aren't. This person, their website, business, it's inaccessible because the entire website is behind a password protected login. So no, they're not your competition. And this other website ranks 30 or below for everything of any value besides their brand. So no, they're not your competition. However, these people that you didn't even name, they're ranking number 1 and 2 here. So I think you need to be a little more careful about them. So what you want to be doing is thinking about the competition and what you need to do to beat them. Now, in all these cases, it's going to come down to, do you have the right resource? And one of the things that I do is I do workshops with clients and we work through a lot of these things. But one of the things is capabilities or tools or people. So if you're in-house and you're like, right, you want to rank well, you want to win, you want to make all the money, well, we need these resources. And that includes another pair of hands, a freelancer, or we need to hire. It's always better to have a freelancer first so you can prove that you can actually use the person 5 days a week, whatever number of hours a day, you know, for a good few months, and that there's still that level of work going forward. And that means that you're actually able to utilize the freelancer full-time. And if you can utilize a freelancer full-time, then you can justify adding headcount. Adding headcount is not easy, especially in the UK. Now, in some countries which have fewer protections for the employee, yes, it's easy to add headcount. But in countries where employee rights are protected, you do need to be thinking about what you can do to make sure that the headcount ad is value. You don't want to hire somebody and then be like 3 months later, sorry, we kind of ran out of work. And I've actually turned down jobs in the past when I was working in-house because I didn't think that they could actually keep me busy beyond a year. I actually looked at their plan and I was like, well, I can see a year's worth of work here, but nothing beyond that. So I think I'm out. And I didn't take the job. I didn't progress at all with any more of the requests for interviews because I said I didn't think that they had the work and I didn't feel like having to look again because I'm lazy. But really, you want to be thinking about all these things. So whether you're in-house or your agency side, you want to be thinking about all the elements of everything. And that includes what can we also sell into the customer or into the boss. Now, I say we've got to start with personas, even simple ones. And this is a super simple template. So you can look at this template and you can see, okay, so who is the person we're targeting? Sometimes it's CEO, sometimes it's the PA of the CEO, because the PA is the one who's actually in B2B. I do a lot of B2B, is the one who's actually looking at creating the shortlist that gets handed to the CEO. So if you don't get in with the PA, if you're not optimized to be found by somebody who doesn't already know your company, then you might not get on the shortlist. So always be thinking about things like that. Think about, who is it that you're targeting? Who is it that you're, optimizing towards? Is it the CMO? Is it the CMO? I mean, really, it could be the CMO, but it could be the CEO, but it could be somebody else. It could be, I don't know, the assistant to the Secretary General of the United Nations. You never know. What are you selling? But get that in there. Get that in there. And then once you know who that audience is, and do this one per audience group, okay? One per audience group. Do not use this for like everybody. One per audience group. I had one client who had 8 of these, 8. And one of them was for a search engine spider. 8. Crazy, right? I know. But the thing is, they needed 8. One was journalists. One was tech people. One was the actual PA of the CEO who was putting together the shortlist. One was, as I said, search engine spider. So there were tons of personas. Be thinking about this. Are journalists one of your personas? Maybe they are. So do this for each of your personas. Client doesn't have it? Well, funny you should say that you don't have personas. This is something we can help you with. Always be upselling, but this is really important because without this, we can't do the next thing. And the next thing is one of the most important things for those companies out there who build websites. And if you build a website, you really need to know your personas because you need to know the journey through the website. If we don't know who the audience is, if we don't know who we're building for, if we don't know who we're targeting and aiming at, we can't flow them through the site and take them towards conversion. Now, I do work a lot in B2B, so I use a lot of B2B examples, but I also work in B2C a little bit. And of course, earlier, Aleda was talking about, e-commerce and all that sort of stuff. So if you want to be thinking about what she was thinking about on the optimization side of things, but also on the conversion side of things, she's taking you into and helping you sell. But you also want to think about people who aren't necessarily at the right point in the buying cycle and who are just shopping around. How are you going to stick out in their mind? How are you going to make sure that when they're pain aware, when they know they need new shoes, when they know they need a new track shoot, when people know they need something, how is it going to be that you are front of mind? That's the brand search. If you're not, even though they've come and looked at you before, you still need to win them again. That means you really need to understand the kind of searches they're making, what they're likely to need, and therefore move them through the site. So have different landing pages optimized towards different things. And this is the kind of thing, again, workshop with the client, because you can sell that in. Yeah, I know. I'm all about selling on more services to the client, but both the persona mapping and the user journey can be workshopped with the client. And you've got an extra day, or if you really want to pad it out, day and a half, that you can work on things with the client. So always be upselling. They don't have personas, sell them personas. They don't have user journeys through the site. They don't understand how their users move through the site. They don't understand how to get people to the conversion. They just kind of throw conversion everywhere, like, oh, lead gen everywhere. Well, help them. That's part of our job as optimizers, is to help the client. This is something you can sell in. Don't give it away for free. For heaven's sakes, it's time. Time is money. And people are money. People cost money. So move it through in the proposal that you could do this for them, but it does cost money. But ultimately, something like this will make them more money than it will cost them. Always be thinking about, will it make them more money? Knowing their personas, absolutely going to make them more money. Why? In B2B, we know who we're targeting and how to move them through. In B2C, we know where in the purchase cycle they are. I mean, in B2B as well, but where in the purchase cycle they are, what content they're likely to want at that point in the purchase cycle, and therefore what content we need to have on the site. That means we're more likely to sell more stuff because we're more visible and we become the default that people go to. They don't have to wait. So, the user journey and the personas are both things that you can sell into a client. Don't be shy. Make sure you're making money out of this. Now, the next thing we want to be thinking about is the client stuff in general. So in this case, what the broad aspirations are. Remember earlier I said sometimes we need to reframe. Sometimes we need to reflect back and make sure that we've got it right. If we haven't got it right, we need to make sure that we reframe it until we get it right, until the client or the boss actually does agree with what we're proposing here. And we need to make sure it's measurable. One of my big bugbears in the search awards, make everything measurable. And one of my big bugbears in proposals, when I've been in-house, and I am currently working almost as an in-house for one of my clients. And we went out to design agencies and asked for proposals. And one of my biggest bugbears with one of the proposals we got back was, not only was it not personalized to us, but there wasn't really any desired outcome. It was just kind of like, hey, this is us. We do cool stuff. Look, we're cool. Oh, and it's going to cost you 45 grand. What's going to cost us 45 grand? They didn't give us any examples of previous work. They didn't do anything. It was one of the worst proposals. If my old CEO from my last agency saw this, he would never have allowed it out the door, ever in a million years. It was horrible. And so we don't want to be that, right? Now that you have come here, so to speak, virtually, or possibly later on YouTube, and you have watched this whole video and all the other ones from this amazing conference, because Digital Zone is one of the best conferences out there. Remember to buy your tickets, kids. And you've gone and you've created something. It will be bespoke for the client. And I said half a day, okay? Book yourself a half a day, give yourself a half a day, and I'm going to show you shortly exactly what you need to be putting into your deck. And it won't take you 3, 5, 7 days, working days that you don't get paid for. It'll only take you half a day. It'll look bespoke to the client because it will be. It'll look personalized because it will be. And you will get more business as a result, because you won't be doing what that other agency did, which is to say, we're awesome and it's 45K, and not really give any reasoning. So what does the company want to do? And this is very simplistic. As you can tell, I use Excel a lot. These are basically Excel sheets. It's nothing fancy. Okay. You can also take the Excel sheet, put it in Word. It looks fancier. You can put your branding around it. You can make it colorful or do whatever you want with it. However, I want you to be thinking about these things. What is the aspiration? But what is the goal? What is the end outcome? There has to be an end outcome. And also, how are we measuring it? So you can see I've sort of populated it here, and I've said, like create awareness, generate leads, drive discovery, what is it that we're trying to do? So you can see here that what I've done is increase the number of people that are coming directly to the website, that are researching information about the product, that are calling into this call center or whatever. I'm trying here to just show you examples. Please don't use this exactly, because obviously XX on a presentation doesn't look good. Make sure that you fill it out yourself and that you're doing stuff that is bespoke for the client. But this is not necessarily what you're going to show to the client. This is for you to just make your mind map, so to speak. But these bits in here, that is what we're going to do on the next few slides. So I know I'm building up the anticipation. You're like, wait, I'm going to, fast forward on YouTube. Fast forward. You can't fast forward me on live, though. I'm making you wait. So these are the slides. And you don't have to do it in this exact way. But the reason I've done it in this way is just to show you the two things, the concrete goal and the broad aspirations. So what I'm trying to do here is show you that what you have to do is put down the specific of what you're doing. So some brand, I don't know, Bob's Fish and Chips and Chocolate Shop is looking to launch a new website. That doesn't exist, by the way, kids. It's fictitious. So Bob's Fish and Chip and Chocolate Shop is looking to launch a new website. Why? Because chocolate and fish and chips just are delicious. They don't go together. But you know what? In Scotland, they do deep fry after battering Easter cream eggs. I don't necessarily recommend them or the deep fried Mars bars. However, they are an experience. And if you're ever in Scotland, you want to be experiencing. No, let me rephrase that. If you're ever in Scotland, it's an experience. So Bob's Fish and Chip and Chocolate Shop is looking to launch a new website. Now, we don't just say that because that's kind of banal, right? It doesn't fill us with desire and glee and awe and think, oh, this is the right company for me to go with. No, it kind of says, well, yeah, duh, that's what we asked for. That's why you're here. So we want to say that, we are the people who know what's going on. So we're going to tell you the obvious. I know we're stating the obvious here. Understanding demand, path to conversion, and et cetera, et cetera. But what we're doing is we're reflecting back to the client and showing them that we understand what they're talking about. So this is the first step. We understand, we know. And then the next step is, oh gosh, but we have to do stuff in order to get there. So we do techie stuff, or maybe you don't, in which case skip this step. However, with a new build, you don't have to do a migration strategy. However, not many of us are involved in new builds these days. I mean, there are new companies coming onto the market all the time. Most of what we do is going to be rebuilding existing sites. So part of that might be a migration strategy. Now, one extremely large company that I've worked with in the past, whose normal color scheme is red and white, and is not a drink. Well, was a drink once, but then stopped. Anyway, one of the things for them is I didn't want to change their URLs because their URLs had tens of thousands of links in some cases. And I really didn't want them to get rid of these URLs. So one of the things we did is we actually tried to preserve them. However, it is not necessarily what you will need to do with a client, because it might be that things are so messy, and I'm going to show you a slide all about that in a minute. It could be that they're so messy you need to start from scratch and redo that from scratch because, So here you can see I say, we need to deliver you a migration strategy, and we are the people to do that. And what do? I put in a really technical looking picture. Screaming Frog. It's just Screaming Frog. All I've done is I've spidered the website. It's just Screaming Frog. There is nothing special about this, but it looks very technical. Look, there's a donut graph. And if I'd clicked one of the URLs, it would have populated the gray section. And oh my gosh, that looks really complicated. These are clearly the people who know what's going on. Right? They're doing technical things with technical stuff. We really don't want to seem too convoluted, but it does help to show clients that we know what we're doing. And as I mentioned before, we really want to be careful about their money. It's not our money, it's their money. So with their money, what we want to do is be thinking about across all the different tactics, what should we be doing? Do we really need to be building links right now? Really? Honestly? It's almost, well, right now when I'm doing this talk, it is almost the holiday season. And if you're not ready now, it's too late. So no link building for you. But what we might be doing is link building in the new year. And what we might also be doing is changing your entire URL structure. And if we are, we don't want to be building links. So across all the different tactics, What should we be doing? And here I've added in tactics. And one of the things you could do is you can see I've got aspiration, tactics, KPI, but remember earlier that was goals, that middle one. You could do a 4-column one that is aspiration, tactics, goal, KPI. There you go. And it'll look great to the client even if you just do it that way. Make it colorful, make it a little sexier. But what you can do is not only show them that you know what you're doing, but you can also upsell things. Social ads. Why, of course, we can do social ads for you. Radio ads. We can find a partner. And yes, we can do that too. Out of home. Yes, we can do that too. Maybe with a partner. But, what you can do is you can upsell constantly, but demonstrate that you are always thinking across more than just SEO. Because as SEOs, we are more than just search engine optimizers. We are optimizers. We're not just SEOs, we are O's. I don't know, that doesn't sound as sexy. SEO sounds sexier than SEOs, but we are optimizers. We are trying to optimize people's routes through the website. We are trying to optimize our visibility. We are always thinking about how can we do better for the client. And that's what we're doing here. We're setting them up for success. So this is the one I said earlier I would show you. This website was indexing or trying to the HTTP, the HTTPS, the www, the non-www, and wait for it, the trailing slash and non-trailing slash. Yes, that's right. There were 8 versions of every URL. And not just that. There was more. It was awful. It really was. And in this case, sometimes you do have to just start from scratch, because sometimes you cannot rescue a website that is trying with 8 of the same URLs. I mean, it was the same stuff on 8 different pages. I mean, really, this needed to be cleaned up so badly. In my life, I have only ever used 302s in truth twice. And it was valid reasons. One was a takeover of a company by another company, and the company that was bought had to integrate their website, but couldn't for 2 years. I know what you're saying. You could have done it in 6 months. What the heck? It was also to do with the takeover. It was a large company taking over another extremely large company, 2 global companies coming together. And there were technical and legal reasons why we couldn't just take all the old stuff and put it on the new site, which would have been the better solution. But no, we did some intermediate websites and we 302'd those suckers to the intermediate website. And then we 301'd the original URLs to the new final destination once it was live, and we could do that. But yeah, so that is a legitimate reason for 302. However, sadly, Google treats 302s as 301s after a period of time. And sometimes these takeovers, when they're global and they're subject to lots of antitrust stuff, take a little longer than we expected. However, 302s, that's the only reason why you would ever use a 302, is if it was a genuine temporary migration. And in this case, we just slashed and burned the website to the ground, rebuild it from scratch. Yeah, sometimes you just have to. Now, what I've done here is given you the insight of, the content of the existing site. Oh dear, it's weak. Oh no, I'm sure you could find this for any content on any existing site. It could be ranking #1 for everything, but you could find some relevant keywords in position 68, I'm sure. We can all find these things. So with this one, I think, and I've put a different screenshot in here because I didn't want to show the actual client stuff, because these are actual client slides from a pitch we won. So I didn't want to put the actual client stuff in here, so I've put in something else. But what had happened was they were extremely visible on brand, but not off brand. Off brand for non-branded keywords, they were pretty much invisible, which meant that everybody else in the industry, especially new people coming in, were not being exposed to their brand. And if they didn't get into the brand early, they lost out on the sale, and they lost out on the lifetime of that person, because that person then became familiar with a different brand. And that meant that you could actually see in the search results, other brands were going up slowly but surely over time, and they were losing position. So this is why I said, the content of the existing site is weak. Again, don't fake it, but if it is, and I've just used SEMrush here, if it is, say something and say, hey, and we're the right people to help you, and we can sell you in a package of content. Look at my previous Digital Zone talks for information about keyword research. So again, here I've done SEMrush again. Obviously, Ahrefs does exist and can provide you with something similar. Here I've done SEMrush for one website. I picked on Brighton SEO here. I did one thing for Brighton SEO, and then I didn't even do the research. I just clicked the competitor sites that SEMrush offered me just because it was easier and faster. And remember, I'm lazy, but also I'm trying to do this quickly. So we don't want to have to do this too slowly. We want to be able to do this quickly. Don't do this so quickly that you get the competitors wrong, because then the client loses faith. So if you've got the competitors completely wrong up here, you see at the top there, the competitors. Oh wait, I'm up there. Something like that. Anyway, because I'm off to the side. If you get that wrong, they'll lose faith. So if you get that right, they'll trust you even more, and they'll believe that you understand their business even more. And so what we're doing with each of these slides is not only making them bespoke for the client, but proving to them that we know what we're doing. So here you can show them the gaps and oh my God, there are other conferences ranking for stuff that Brighton SEO does not. And with a client, I mean, obviously, don't be that melodramatic, but with a client, you can say, so here's what we found. We went in and we looked, and we found that in some key areas, you're actually not leveraging the keywords and content that you could be to capture audience members that are being captured by your competition, or to sell products that you have but your competitors are more efficient at optimizing for. So what you're doing here is showing them that you're thinking about the whole life cycle. So you're thinking about what is it that they could be doing that could work better than what they're doing right now. And you're constantly thinking about that. You're not just thinking about building a new website. You're thinking about how to make the new website better than the last website and beat the competition while you're at it. Now, link building, I'm a link builder as well. I've been a link builder for many years. I buy links. Yes, I know. Anyway, if we look at this for something like link building, let's say they're a very mature business and you're really not sure where you could find opportunities. Ahrefs, Majestic, SEMrush. Obviously, I got access to SEMrush. So because I have access to SEMrush, all of my slides are SEMrush examples. I had Majestic for a while, but I don't have it at the moment. However, Majestic is also an excellent tool for link building. So if you are a specialist link building agency, you obviously already have it. If you want to become a specialist link building agency, you're going to want to get it. So Majestic, SEMrush, or Ahrefs, they do overlap on a number of things. So you might not want both, but you might want both just to make sure you've got all your bases covered. But you can see here that it's doing the job for you. And look at this. You can even do something like this. Look at that. The competition is stealing a march on you. They're doing much better. We have to do something now. So if you are selling in link building, it's an excellent way to sell it in. And obviously, it's all about the competition. So how are we going to win? And this, again, I've just used that simple outline. You know, who's the competitor? What channels are they leveraging? But also, how can we do better? What channels can we do better with? What channels could we possibly outrank them on? So I do like a mini competitive audit. I don't put mini competitive audit in there, make it look sexier. I've just put it in there so that you understand what I'm talking about here. And I always say the competitive landscape is tough because, as I say there, 99.9% of the time, it is true. They might be a market dominating product, and I've worked with those, but still, the competitive landscape is tough because all the scrappy competitors are doing everything they can to unseat you. So you have to constantly be on top of what are they doing and how are they doing it differently. So this is actually the example again from that client. While that client had developed into a market leader, we did find that off-brand, they weren't visible. So other competitors, as you can see at the bottom, had actually taken that non-branded search volume and owned it. Now, you notice I say ego stroke, then, ooh, warning. So obviously make them feel better. And then, oh, warning. I was once sitting in a pitch, not even a pitch, I'd won it. But I was sort of sitting in an audit delivery. And at the end of it all, I tried to end on a high, and I said, look at this other manufacturer of cars, of luxury cars, is doing worse than you. Look at what they're ranking for. It was like Russian dating sites and other porn that they were ranking. So they were getting links from and ranking for some very questionable terms. I won't even say what they were, but let's just say you wouldn't want to rank for it. And I ended on that. Why? Because you might be bad, but your competition's even worse. Because I needed to end on a high, and the client said, at one point I was thinking about jumping out of that window, and pointed to the window where we were 5 stories up. So always end on a high note, because you don't want your client jumping out of a 5th story window, because apparently I'm very harsh. But here's a competitive audit example. You can pull in this from a competitor website and say, look at that. Oh my gosh, they have been actually working on things while we've been sitting still. And you can do things like that. You can also do things like this. What I've done is just taken out SEMrush's little balloons. And this is actually an example from that client. Do you see how big? Do you see how big on that? You see? Do you see how big that is? That's their keywords. Do you see on the other side how there's, masses of keywords that they don't even touch? Yeah, those are the non-branded keywords. Most of that blue circle was branded keywords. The orange and the green, non-branded keywords, stuff that they were losing out on. It's serious. They really needed help. And of course, we could help. Now, this, as you can see, uses a simple COUNTIF. I just pulled the stuff out of SEMrush. I popped it into a spreadsheet. And what I did is, you know how you've got HTTPS://. Well, if you put all of those search results into a like Notepad or some sort of a text-only editor, like text only, and then you copy all of that and paste it into Excel, it will ask you what the delineator is of the spacing. Is it a comma? Is it a space? In this case, it's a slash. So if you put the delineator as a slash, what that will do is it will give you just the domain name in one column, because HTTPS or HTTP : is the first part, right? Then slash. So you get 2 empty ones. And then you get the domain name only, without anything else. Perfect. Then you just do a COUNTIF. How many times does this domain appear? And then you make a donut graph. Boom, done. It's probably one of the longer pieces, because you have to do the whole copy paste. But this is, this so far, it's been super simple and easy, right? It's not been that long. What you want to do is be thinking about planning and tools and people and things like that. So what do we need to do to win? Time, obviously, people, probably, most possibly lots of people, but people and time. And then these are the tools that I've mentioned. Now, I haven't mentioned Pew or Statistica, but Pew and Statistica are actual research places. So if you want to say, this is what the retail environment is doing, this is what the business environment is doing, here's how products are performing in this particular vertical, you can actually go there. They do have a lot of stuff for free. Sometimes you have to pay. But if you're doing a pitch and you want to show them that you know what you're talking about because you know their vertical, that's what you want to do. Now, core fundamentals. We need to be thinking about this when we're pitching. Now, I've shown you all the technical stuff and how to put together all the technical stuff, but the story is what's going to sell it. Okay, so we want to think about the story. The story is what's going to sell your business. And I know that it's not like once upon a time. It's that thread that goes through the whole presentation that you start with, is in the middle, and you end with. So if you do it as Bob's Fish and Chips, it doesn't matter. When you're in there with Bob's Fish and Chips and Chocolate Shop, make sure you say, we know about fish and chips and we know about chocolate. And so therefore, we're best positioned to rebuild your shop's website. And keep that theme going through the whole thing. But always be thinking about answering the core questions that every business has, whether they realize it or not. Some CEOs are really self-aware and they're really business aware and they know these questions. Some are not. Some are just scrappy and they're not really aware of the questions they should be asking. So we want to be thinking about these things. There's no point in doing work that's not going to actually benefit. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. You need to know why you're doing it. And also, you can't just do things in random order. Like I said earlier, if you have to rebuild the whole website, why do link building? Because then all your URLs will be different. The links will be less value. But look at point 3, best practices. Sometimes what is best practice is so expensive to do, and it will not have the impact that you need to make a difference in the business. And so you really shouldn't be doing it. Just because it's best practice does not mean you have to do it. Okay? It might be best practice, but you don't have to do it. Obviously, Martin Splitt did say some very important things about what we have to do with code, because that is an on or off thing. Technical SEO, on or off. And while some people say, oh, it's 20% of the ranking algorithm, it's 25% of the ranking algorithm, blah, 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 I don't care. It's on or it's off. You either are going to rank well because your website is crawlable, or you're not because it's not. Slow website, not going to rank well. Technical audit, fix it. Fast website, going to rank well in as much as you can with the content you've got and the links. Technical, on or off. So get that right first. That is priority 1. But not all the technical bits need to be done. So think about it. Are you really going to get enough of a benefit from that technical bit? Or is it just pointless? Because it's a tick box exercise, but it's not actually going to get you any more ranking. So that last point is key. Demonstrate to the client you understand that, and you will win more clients. And for you in-housers, I know I've been focusing a lot on agency, but hopefully you've been able to think about how this would work in-house. But that last point, show your boss you understand. So just show him you understand. Now, we need to think about everything. We need to think about all the things. We don't just want to be doing one thing and not another, because we're bringing in new clients all the time. This is the customer life cycle. We don't just want to be bringing in new customers. We want to be nurturing and promoting, so to speak, the ones that we already have as customers. One of my clients, one of their biggest problems, 70%, he says, I don't know if this is accurate, but he has the number, 70% buy once and don't buy again. That's a huge problem. That's a huge retention problem. Massive. Think about this. And you might be thinking, well, yeah, Judith, but customer lifecycle stuff, that's like, it sits in brand and it sits in sales, and it's not SEO. I mean, how is it SEO? How are we doing anything on the brand on the life cycle of sales? Well, one of the things I did with Orange back when it was Orange before it was EE was an exercise in this to make sure that after people bought handsets, and again, it was B2B, but after these companies bought 6 or 12 or 25 handsets, that they didn't keep coming back and calling the call center all the time for every little thing. So we optimized post-purchase, because there's a lot of different things post-purchase that we want to be thinking about that could be optimized, because we're not just search engine optimizers, right? We are optimizers. And you can see here, but what's the key here? What's the key? The yellow is the key. The yellow is SEO. The yellow shows that we optimizers sit at almost every single point. And I'd argue review sites could come under our purview. So really, everything comes under our purview as SEOs. So we're not just search engine optimizers. We are optimizers. We are visibility optimizers. VO also doesn't sound very good. It sounds like some sort of a disease. But anyway, we are visibility optimization experts, and that's where we sit. Why? Because we make you money. Now, I know this is an old slide. It is an old survey, but hey, it proves my point. And that is that we make more money for you than anybody else as SEOs. But paid search actually does bring in a lot of money for a lot of e-commerce clients. So you will probably find, if you are in B2C e-commerce, that this is much more 50-50 for organic and paid. But we want to be thinking across all channels, because SEO, woo-hoo-hoo, we make lots of money. So start it off. We want to be thinking about these questions. We want to be doing the who, what, when, where, what. No, just the who, what, when, and where. So we want to be thinking about who we're targeting. Who are we targeting? Our personas. Remember, we built them earlier. So we want to be thinking about who we're targeting, and our personas are who we're targeting. So besides who we're targeting and our personas, we also want to be mapping that. Remember, we're going to be doing a user flow through the website. So user mapping and user flow through the website is one of the first things that we need to be doing. People share. We want to be thinking about social. Don't just be thinking about SEO, be thinking about social too. Why? Because in one of my clients, WhatsApp is one of their biggest organic sales channels for social. It's qualified in analytics under social. WhatsApp. Tracked sales from WhatsApp. Biggest channel for organic search. Biggest channel. Not as big as email marketing, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, but still, it's important. People share all over the place. So you want to be thinking about where people are finding you. Where are they finding you? It's not just search engines. What are they doing when they get to the site? How are they moving through that site? Have we actually matched content to the user journey? Or are we just like, sell, sell, sell? So is any content missing? Sell, upsell, content missing, upsell. Is there too much content there on one thing? I did have a client that had that. Too much content, not a good thing. What are people looking for? What is it? That's where we get our keyword research. And remember, kids, Digital Zone, one of the previous ones, keyword research. Watch it. It's good. So where are the gaps? We want to be thinking about filling the gaps. Now, I use a really complicated way of visualizing this. You don't have to use this because it might be just a little bit much for you. It's a lot. There's a lot going on there. But this is just a scatter graph with XY chart labeler. That's it. That's all it is. So, and it's fun. It's colorful. But consumer research. Now, this is something that might be a little bit more difficult, but you do want to get the client to explain to you what the buying patterns are. Maybe there's seasonality and we have to be ready months in advance of Christmas or Easter or Hanukkah or Eid or any of a number of holidays that we might have content for that we want to have on the website. So understand the motivations of the users and what their needs are, and then we need to address them. But when are they getting it? Are they getting, because, I've just talked about social. When are they getting it? Are they getting a WhatsApp message at 2 a.m? They're not going to action that, please. But obviously that's a personal share. Remember the 7 types of share? That's somebody being altruistic and trying to help. But it's not always helpful. So when are we posting? Well, best time to post on Facebook, according to Sprout Social. And again, this is not my research. This is Sprout Social. On Twitter and Facebook and Twitter, those are our main channels for a lot of B2C clients I've got. But weirdly, Facebook, B2B, absolutely 100% B2B, 100%. I know that people think that LinkedIn is 100% B2B, and it is. But Facebook, it's where the world is, especially if they're older. Did I say that? I am older in that I am well past 50 and I think now more than halfway to 55. The best time to post on Instagram, but we're not just posting to Instagram these days. B2C, if we are B2C, and believe it or not, a little bit of B2B, but not as much B2B. Obviously SEOs. But not just Instagram, but TikTok. What's the best time to post on TikTok? Well, apparently the middle of the week, the middle of the day. Because evidently that's when we're most bored and on TikTok. I swear I'm on TikTok all the time. But it's not just when, it's where. Which one of those channels should you post to when? Like, should you be posting to Facebook every day, Twitter every day? The life of a tweet is incredibly short, but the life of a Facebook post can be much longer. So we want to be thinking about not just when, but where, when. So when are we doing to different places at different times? TikTok, as you saw, was different to Instagram, different to LinkedIn, different to Facebook. So we need to know for each of those, which day of the week, which hour of the day. Don't just think about what time of the day and then just splash, splash, splash. Think about it more strategically. And then we want, as I've already said, to think about where. Now, this is interesting. It's a little bit older, Salesforce research. I like showing this because it shows that at different ages, we are, well, let's just say different age groups are receptive to getting information in different ways. For instance, baby boomers, they're the get off my lawn, you darn kids age group. Because why? They don't want to hear about you unless they've gone to your website. That's it. That's other than that, get off my lawn, you damn kids. So it's your website or nothing, and then they'll hate you for the rest of your life. For my generation, Generation X, we've also got the website is big, but they're kind of like, well, okay, I might accept a mobile app. Maybe I might a little bit more open and receptive to getting a phone call, but maybe not. Millennials, well, they'll hear from you about any channel. Yeah, website for sure, but social media, up for it. Mobile app, 100% in. Well, obviously not 100%, but phone, yeah, totally open to being phoned. I'm not. Please don't phone me, but you know, I am Generation X. Email, totally. So, you know, think about what age group you're targeting as well, because while we have 7 types of share, the 7 types of share in different ways. So remember earlier I said altruists might have been sending at 2 a.m. something on WhatsApp to be helpful, but often they're sending it in email or sharing over Facebook. Now, look at that. Over 50% of the sharing types are sharing via email. They're sharing via email. When was the last time you made a product shareable by email? I just fought for, wow, what, it's December now? And we got it in November. So 11 months I fought for a wish list that was not only a wish list, but shareable without being logged into the site by email. I argued and argued and argued. 11 months. But hey, we have it now. And that's all that matters. I'm not bitter much, only slightly. So build out your personas. Map your user journeys through the site. And wow, this looks complicated, doesn't it? You can do it online. It's simple. And then focus on how people convert on the site, because it is never they just go and they're like, yes, I'm in, I'm buying all the things. They are a little bit more complex and want to see it more than once. Obviously, be positive. Please don't be negative, especially on social media. And make sure that you're always thinking about the person that you're interacting with, because when you interact with them well, they will purchase, they will buy, whether it's your client or your client's clients or your boss. Be positive, be safe, and be healthy. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hi again. So it was very enjoyable to watch it, actually, and it was very full of information, and really thank you so much again. So also your great energy was amazing, and people just commented on me on Discord here, and someone on Twitter just DM me. So they already want you to see next year. So I just want to secure your seat again. So we have some questions. If you'd like to read by yourself, or I can read it to you, which one do you prefer?
Okay, let's see.
The one, or
I think I can read it here. I'm not sure. I'll try. I've got James saying, what should be the key metrics we are identifying the KPIs for SEO success? So if we're just talking SEO success and nothing else, some of the KPIs that I use are increases in traffic, obviously, you know, Google Search Console, right? Increases in traffic to the site from organic search for relevant keywords. And remember, Digital Zone, earlier session, keyword research. So you can get the keyword research done, but you want to be identifying what the client needs people to be coming in for. And also, I would argue that if the client is selling something, one of the KPIs should be people that actually convert. So if your client converts at 2% and you increase that to 2.5 from organic search, that could easily be a KPI for you. But that's an ambitious KPI if it's not something that you directly control. So it's a tough one. But I would say that, yeah, that is definitely potentially something that you could use as one of the metrics to measure. Obviously, everything in Google Search Console. So improvements in technical, improvements in page experience, because, you know, if you go on the side, you can use page experience. If you go into settings, there's also the crawl stats. So improvements in response time of the website and the crawl stats as well. Anything that is relevant to the client should be in there as a KPI. So I've actually put some on my slide where I said, you know, increases in searches, increases in brand searches, increases in traffic through the site, converting traffic through the site. One of the things that I downmark on B2B is if you say, hey, we're trying to sell, I don't know, I'm looking over at my printer on the side here. So I've got a printer over here. We were trying to sell printers to businesses, but only businesses, not consumers. And so we optimized for buy printer online, and we got all this more traffic. Well, great, you got more traffic, but did you actually sell more printers to businesses? No? Okay. So that's a fail. So this is what we want to be thinking about, KPIs that make sense to the business. And I had a client once that was KPI'd himself internally on his own business on the number of subscribers to the newsletter. So we did a whole piece on getting subscribers to the newsletter. So sometimes we do weird things in SEO. I optimized a page so people could land there and subscribe. So it's sometimes our KPIs aren't necessarily intuitive, but they're important to the client, and that's what's important. And the next one's my favorite. It says, hey, Judith, have you ever had a site migration experience that ended badly? What went wrong and how did you fix it? So I've personally not been directly hands-on and involved in a site migration that went terribly badly, but I have been called in afterwards. So I have seen site migrations that have gone really badly, mostly because redirects weren't put into place properly. I did have one site migration where I was working with the client at the time. They launched and I wasn't aware that they were launching. I was in another country at the time, on holiday. I was taking time off to be with my family, and they decided to launch the new website. And so I remember being in my dad's basement, because family, I live with my father when I go on vacation. Clearly, you never get rid of your children. They only leave for a time and then move back in. Just a warning out there for all of you parents, we never leave. And I remember being there at 5 a.m. in my dad's basement going, what the heck is going on? This isn't just a holiday traffic drop. This is an entire traffic drop. I went in, I was like, the website looks different. What's going on? And so, yeah, that would have been one that went very badly. How did I recover from it? I immediately emailed them and said, right, I can see you went live with a new website. I have a spider, because whenever you do a Screaming Frog crawl of a website, save it. Don't just ditch it. It doesn't matter. Buy a 1 terabyte drive, pay for cloud storage, save those crawls. Why? Because I had a crawl from about 3 months earlier of the site back then, and I crawled the site that day, which meant that I could put together a set of migration URLs. So the old URL to the new URL, which hadn't been done by the devs. And they were like, well, Google can crawl it. I don't know. And I was like, well, how does Google know what the old URL to the new URL is? They're not that smart. 6-year-old. Remember, 6-year-old. And so I put together a set of migration URLs. We got those live really quickly. We got a sitemap live. It took 3 months because it was a YMYL site. It took 3 months to recover to anything close to the previous level of traffic. But that's all I had to do was migration. But I've had others where completely trashed the traffic, completely destroyed the traffic. And what we had to do was not only do like redirect files, but we also had to repoint links from external sites. So we had to email, actually, I didn't, we did hire in people. We had to email all the people that had links into the site and ask them to repoint them. We recovered that one in, I think, 6 weeks. So it wasn't too bad. So yeah, I have lots of stories about migrations I've been called in for to fix after they've gone disastrously wrong. But the one that I was sort of involved in, but no one told me was happening, was a YMYL site that they launched while I was on holiday with my family. And no, they didn't even tell me. I checked my email. I was like, no one told me. You didn't even give me a heads up. You just did it. So my moral of my story is, if you Screaming Frog or Deepcrawler or any of the other solutions that are available on the market today, a site, save it. Save it, because you never know when that's going to save your bacon. Let's see. Does the do follow versus no follow link ratio matter in terms of SEO? Yes, but only in certain circumstances. I saw somewhere that you should build some no follow links too. If you have too many do follow links, there's no such thing as a do follow link, folks. It's a follow link. It's just a link. It's just a link. It do follow doesn't exist. Please don't tag links as do follow. That's not a thing. Link so that it looks more natural. I would say that so one of the things that Google did many, many years ago, and I'm old, and I've been doing this a long time, so I remember this, is that they released something called real time. Real time meant that you could look at what was happening with your site in real time, but you know what that meant also? It meant that we could see the links that Google was finding real time. And it meant that we could see the natural cadence of the gaining of links to a website, and then Google shut it down in like days. I was really sad, but I saved many screenshots. So it gives you an idea of the natural normal cadence. But if you're getting links from bloggers, yeah, no follow links are absolutely a thing and they should be done. But in other cases, if you've only ever gotten follow links, and if you've only ever gotten normal links, then something like Majestic will show that, and you don't need to do no follow links. If, however, you start building links with bloggers, no follow links are a thing that you should expect. And yes, you should absolutely build no follow links, because yes, that is normal and expected by Google from bloggers. So yes, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I pay for no follow links. Shh, don't tell people. I like them to think it's a horrible thing that I've had to accede to their demands. But yes, I pay for no follow links. So normal follow links or no follow links, look at what the normal existing pattern is and replicate it. Please don't go against what is already there. That means more links to the homepage. I'm sorry, I know they're not as valuable in some people's minds, but a link from the homepage to a deep page will help boost it up, because most of the links are to the homepage. So homepage links should be the most voluminous links you buy, and then a category, and then a specific landing page, unless you can show that you've reached it out to media, in which case there'll be an expectation of links to a deep page. But remember, normal, natural cadence.
Yeah. So great, thank you. I think there is no more question. The last one was just kind of a thank you speech, so this is why I just confirmed it. So I think these are all the questions, and thank you so much for your time. It's really very important to us to have you here. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to seeing all of you attendees in person next year at Digital Zone in Istanbul. Remember, buy your tickets as soon as you can.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So see you again later. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.